Today, we're talking primarily about disposition on where you can move your vehicles, not just through your retail channels, but also through alternative channels, such as these primary auctions, Manheim and Odessa, and Aaron was just addressing some of the differences there.
So when you're acquiring cars from consumers, there is less room for error. So as the first tab says, it's not a trade. When you're acquiring cars directly from private sellers, there isn't a front-end deal that is contingent upon acquiring the vehicle. So when there is not a front-end deal, then there's less room for error. So another strategy we see is selective acquisition. So, and what that implies is that you are simply going after a small segment of the market. So where Aaron's located is Houston. So if the strategy was to simply go after a very small niche of the market, you're missing a huge opportunity simply because you're going after only a small amount of cars. At the end of the day, it's about making profit and making money. And if you know how to or where to dispose of the inventory, that will yield you more opportunities and at the end, more profit.
And so the question that came in was, are you suggesting that you want to source vehicles from private sellers for the purpose of moving them through these auctions? Or these are just where you're going to go if you're not able to move them through your retail channel?
I think absolutely. I mean, when you look at the bigger picture of why you're actually sourcing vehicles, yes, you want to buy vehicles and you want to get your name out there, but from a dealership perspective, any interaction with that customer is just going to open another door. If they have a great positive experience with you, you're certainly going to be top of their list in customer service. Family, friends, coworkers, they're going to hear I sold my car to XYZ dealer. And I mean, as the model has changed and as we're experiencing margin compression on a retail side nationwide, you want to get to every customer that you possibly can. You want to engage the $500 customer. You want to engage the customer that's selling his Maybach.
I think what we see most dealers that we work with, their primary strategy is first to retail, because that's often the greatest profit opportunity. And then it's, as Aaron had indicated when he spoke about retail strategy, is knowing your market, knowing your retail strategy, and knowing what vehicles work and which vehicles do not. So even if the vehicle is a desirable piece, but you have too many of them, you may be inclined to wholesale that vehicle through one of the channels that Aaron is discussing. So what we see is retail is by far the highest on the hierarchy of the channels to dispose of your vehicles.
Tom, you have listed a wholesaler really would be your last option.
Yeah, unless, like Aaron said, it's a car you don't know. It may be a good option, to make a deal, or certainly to have a check backed. But when you look at the other avenues to dispose of a vehicle, naturally a wholesaler is often the middleman. So if you can avoid the middleman and go direct to the source, either by knowing a network of dealers that will be the end buyer of that vehicle, or if you know what auction that wholesaler will end up taking the vehicle to. And I think what Aaron's getting to is that if you are the disposition expert, you can essentially take place of who that wholesaler is and go direct to the source.
I think the most important thing in disposition, for a senior level, is identifying and seeing the patterns. There's like we've said, there's pros and cons. And like Tom said, there's been dealerships that he's been involved with where he's seen these things happen. And, that's part of being a disposition expert, is identifying that pattern. And if you've identified it, then I think you have some pretty clear answers right away.